Let me now turn to the second segment, where we'll be hearing from the leading agencies who have put together this webinar to hear what will be their marching orders or what they expected from us, so that we can really also reflect on that as we go into the discussions and the presentations. Therefore, it's my honor to invite Mr. Tuts, who is the Director of Global Solutions Division, to give us his views or perspective so that we can take that forward. Mr. Tuts, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Remy, for the introduction. Thanks to Omar and Jean-Pierre for the inspiring words, I think, which set the stage for this this webinar. And on behalf of UN Habitat, I'm really honored to participate here. I think it's very important that we get prepared for AFRICITIES in Kisumu in May. And the theme on intermediary cities is critical indeed, because we know that rural transformation and urbanization is leading to the further growth of these cities, and that now already 210 million Africans live in an intermediate city in Africa, in one of the 1,400 intermediary cities that the continent has. And we must say that in many cases, intermediary cities are indeed lagging behind, as Jean-Pierre has said, in basic services, infrastructure, capacities. There's also often inadequate support from national government and not sufficient formal employment opportunities, and limited economic diversity and vulnerability to climate change as well, amongst other challenges. And one of these challenges, as Jean-Pierre has also said, is that the pandemic has shown how relevant the universal access to healthcare services and is in intermediary cities, and how restrictions to mobility between urban and rural areas can severely affect entire sectors of the economy and of the food supply. So, when empowered, intermediary cities can indeed play a very critical role in enhancing the balanced territorial development, linking urban and rural communities and activities, and vice versa. And intermediary cities can also act as service centers for rural and urban populations, and they play a major role in accessing goods and services. And they also strengthen food security systems by linking rural productions with urban areas and services. So now moving to Habitat, we have undertaken interventions towards sustainable urbanization and the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the New Urban Agenda. And those agenda recognize that urban and rural communities do not live in isolation from another. In fact, our strategic plan, which will now last until 2025, is defining the focus areas of reduced spatial inequality and poverty in communities across the urban-rural continuum, and also enhanced prosperity of cities and regions. These are 2 out of the 4 priorities of our strategic plan, and they all contribute to resilient and sustainable urban and rural development. So, since the UN Habitat Assembly in May 2019, member states have adopted a resolution on urban-rural linkages within the framework of guiding principles and frameworks for action, which was adopted by 40 different organizations. And in implementing this resolution, we are undertaking 3 key activities. One is supporting and encouraging countries in integrating urban-rural linkages in their policies and plans. Second, raising awareness on urban-rural linkages to member states. And third, collecting and disseminating best practices on urban-rural linkages. Now, partnerships are very important to further highlight different dimensions of this topic. And last year, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the World Union of Wholesale Markets, And currently we are undertaking discussions with the UN Food and Agriculture Organization to enhance sustainable food systems in the urban-rural continuum, with intermediate cities as a key, playing a key role. We also, in collaboration with Songyang County in China, we organized the second International Forum on Urban-Rural Linkages, bringing together stakeholders working in urban-rural continuum, including intermediary cities, to share practices and develop recommendations for policies, plans, and programs. And finally, in support of the Italian presidency of the G20, UN Habitat and OECD launched a platform on territorial development and Sustainable Development Goal localization. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, we do recognize that urban and rural areas cannot be separated, cannot be considered in isolation, and intermediary cities are a key in bridging the gaps between urban and rural communities, and strengthening these linkages and promoting a system of intermediary cities will definitely contribute to positive urbanization that promotes productivity and prosperity. So let's make use of this opportunity that the webinar presents today to contribute on how the role of intermediary cities have in enhancing urban-rural linkages, and this would be definitely a great contribution to the AFRICITIES Summit. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I wish you all the best with the webinar. Thank you.